Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Rifleman. Still at camp, still not at the shooting range, but I wanted to take a quick look at a build that I just completed a few days ago, and since we're here, may as well take the opportunity to do that. Now, I first became aware of the 300 Blackout cartridge about 30 years ago. It was the early 1990s, I believe. At that point in time, it was referred to as the 300 Whisper. It had been developed by J.D. Jones, who was the president of SSK Industries. Jones developed a whole number of handgun hunting cartridges, and his company produced ammunition, and they also produced barrels for rifles like the Thompson Center Encore, I guess, and the Thompson Center Contender pistol. And in addition to handgun hunting cartridges, J.D. Jones also developed a series of cartridges that he called Whispers. They were in several different calibers. Probably the most famous was the 30 caliber 300 Whisper. And the idea behind the Whisper cartridges was they were truncated rifle cartridges that could push more or less traditional high ballistic coefficient rifle bullets at subsonic velocities and give decent performance, decent trajectory and ballistics out to extended ranges. In the case of the 300, probably about 300 yards. And they could do it very quietly, and if you were shooting through a suppressed firearm, they would be nearly silent, or at least that was the theory. I've very rarely had the opportunity to shoot a suppressed firearm that was truly silent, but the idea was they would be quite quiet. And so the 300 Whisper appeared in a number of different magazine articles and some of those big phone book sized annuals. I think I have an old Gun Digest at home somewhere that talks at great length about J.D. Jones and goes into depth about the 300 Whisper. So about 15 or 20 years later, SOCOM approached Advanced Armaments Corporation to talk about developing this concept a little bit further in order to use something like the 300 Whisper for tactical purposes. They were looking specifically for a replacement to the H&K MP5 SD, which is an integrally suppressed 9mm submachine gun, obviously a version of the MP5, but they wanted something that could hit harder at CQB ranges, would provide additional performance over the 9mm, which the MP5 was chambered in, and if they needed to, at longer extended ranges, say out to about 300 yards, they could switch over from subsonic loads to supersonic loads. So basically what AAC did was they standardized the 300 Whisper, which had, although SSK Industries was making it and J.D. Jones had spent a lot of time developing the 300 Whisper, there was no standardized size of the cartridge. So what they did was they fully developed the cartridge. They changed it around a little bit. The 300 Blackout is based on the 223 Remington or 5.56 NATO cartridge. I think J.D. Jones had originally based the 300 Whisper on the 221 Fireball case, which is a little bit weird. So the idea, though, was that you would be able to build an AR-15 or an M16 or M4 platform weapon using all standard parts except for the barrel. You could change the barrel out, but the bolt would remain the same. You could use the same magazines. So it would be easy and cost-effective to convert existing weapons to 300 Blackout. Now, in addition to that, AAC developed a dedicated weapon called the Honey Badger, which was more or less based on the AR-15 or M16 platform, but it used a lot of specialized parts. Today there's a company called Q, which was founded by a guy who used to work for AAC. His name escapes my memory at the moment, but he's still making a version of that original weapon called the Honey Badger, and they make one that's a little bit more AR-15 specific. It's using forged AR-15 upper and lower, similar to this, called the Sugar Weasel. I want to make it perfectly clear, this is none of those things. This is an AR-15 pistol that I built. And yes, it looks a little stupid because today is August 2nd, I believe, and we are still, although we do seem to be making some progress in the courts, and I think specifically the Supreme Court has decided that they are going to take a look at some of the ATF's rulings. We are currently living under the rules set forth by the ATF that govern the construction of AR-15 pistols. So I have built this in the most neutered way possible. I've got a Bushnell, basically just a red dot sight. It's not of limited eye relief. You could shoot this thing at arm's length. Oh, and by the way, I did clear the weapon prior to starting the video, but there's no magazine in here, nothing in the chamber, so we're good to go. So I don't have a scope of limited eye relief. That is an important thing. Look into it. If you're not aware of that, just taking off your arm brace doesn't necessarily make you 100% legal, according to the ATF. In addition to that, I put an actual pistol tube on the back of this one. I forget the name of the company. I think it's like SE Machinery or something like that. I'll look it up and put some text down below. So this is just a basic fluted buffer tube. It's nicely machined. It's got this little pentagonal recess on the back. It looks good, but most importantly, there's no provision for attaching an arm brace on here. So let's just look at some of the other parts. I just wanted to get this out of the way so that when we actually do get to the range and shoot this, I don't have to go into it in such great detail. Of course, the heart of every AR-15 is its barrel. And I didn't have, up until about 4 weeks or so ago, although I've been studying the 300 Whisper and then the 300 Blackout and kind of observing them from afar with some interest, I had no intent to buy a 300 Blackout or build a 300 Blackout. But it was a Saturday morning. I was drinking my coffee, much like I'm doing right now. And I looked at, I think it was Primary Arms. Primary Arms had some stuff on sale, and they had a number of Faxon rifle barrels on sale, or AR-15 barrels. In this case, a pistol barrel. They had a few in 300 Blackout. And although I had no intention of building a 300 Blackout, I was looking at those and I'm going, that's a pretty good deal. And before you knew it, I had a barrel and most of the other parts necessary to put this together in my cart, and I clicked purchase. And the rest is history. So I started off with a Faxon barrel. This is a 7.5-inch barrel. I could have chosen with the ones that were on sale between 7.5 and 10 inches. The original Honey Badger, I think, either had a 7-inch barrel or an 8-inch barrel. I'm not 100% sure on that off the top of my head, but I figured 7.5 inches would be fine. This is Faxon's gunner profile barrel. The gunner profile is a hybrid between government profile and like a pencil barrel. You can look that up. We've got a pistol-length gas system in here. I don't know who made the gas tube. It's a pretty generic gas tube. I used a Luth R low-profile gas block. This is one of the type that's just held in place with 2 set screws on the bottom. So then I started to accessorize the forward end of the pistol, and I needed to choose a handguard. I'm not generally huge on free-floated handguards because I think, I know that they provide some isolation from outside forces to the barrel, help increase accuracy. I'm usually concerned about the fact that they're really only attached at the rear, though. A heavy blow out front could bend things, get things off center. But with a pistol length gas system and barrel, you really don't have a lot of options. There are no traditional handguards to go on a barrel of this length. So I was pretty much stuck with free floated, and I don't have anything against it. I just generally don't go that direction because it's more expensive and I don't really see an enormous amount of benefit. But so I bought a Foxtrot Mike handguard. Now I know Foxtrot Mike is famous for building a lot of non-standard, sort of vaguely AR-15 specific stuff. Let me assure you that this handguard, it has no slot for a forward charging handle or anything like that. This is a very basic AR-15 handguard. And as a muzzle device, I chose a KAK. I think this was the Micro Slimline flash can. Now, somewhere in my calculations, I added something incorrectly. Well, first of all, the handguards turned out to be longer than 8.5 inches. They're advertised as 8.5 inches. They're closer to 9 inches. Then I had a 7.5-inch barrel, and the KAK flash can was supposed to be 1.5 inches long. And somehow when I did all the math, I thought the flash can was going to end up about 1/4 of an inch outside of the handguards or forward of the handguards. And it, in fact, ended up being about 1/4 of an inch inside the handguards, which annoyed me initially. I actually thought about buying a longer flash can or buying a different handguard set, but at the end of the day, does it really make any difference that the flash can is 1/4 of an inch inside the handguard? Probably not. So the other two major components, the upper receiver and the lower receiver, are both from Aero Precision. This was not a matched set. I bought these separately from two different outfits because I got good deals on each of them. I'm always buying stuff on sale. But they fit together very nicely. There's very little play. I do like the fact that Aero Precision has a plastic-tipped screw that runs up through the bottom of the lower receiver and impinges against the lug that the rear takedown pin goes through to provide some tension and make for a nice tight fit. There's a very slight bit of wiggle there, but not enough to be annoying. I guess that's pretty much it. The bolt carrier group and the charging handle are both borrowed out of another AR-15 for the time being. I may end up buying a dedicated bolt for this, or I may actually end up buying a dedicated bolt for the other rifle that I borrowed this out of. But for the time being, these are sort of on loan from a different AR-15. And I've got an old-fashioned, I don't know how this is going to shoot. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to take it out to the range yet, but I have an old-fashioned Colt 9mm pistol buffer in here, which weighs about 5.5 ounces, so it's almost twice as heavy as a standard carbine buffer. Faxon has a tendency to overgas their barrels, and when I was installing the gas block, I didn't put a pin gauge in and measure the diameter of the gas port in the barrel, but it looks very generous. And of course, you've got this short little pistol length gas system, which has a tendency to be more violent than a carbine. The longer you get, the less violent your gas system is. A carbine is less violent than pistol, and mid-length less so than carbine, and full length, and so on and so on. So I figured I would start off with the heaviest buffer I have. If this has a tendency to eject cases to the rear, looking like we're in an undergas situation, I may scale back, go to a somewhat lighter buffer, but we'll just have to see how that goes when we get to the range. I just wanted to give you a, and I used a, what is this? Oh, it's Mission First Tactical pistol grip. Very, very ergonomic. It's one that I bought on sale for like $5 somewhere, and it's just been laying around in my spare parts box. I like it, but until I bought this lower, I just didn't have any place to put it. But it's a very nice pistol grip, very ergonomic. It feels great in the hand. I think it's going to be great for shooting. So I just wanted to give you an initial look at this pistol. Hopefully, by the time we actually get out to the range, within the next month or two, perhaps the Supreme Court will have reversed the ruling put down by the ATF, and I may be able to legally reconfigure this pistol a bit. If not, we're going to shoot it anyway, and you'll see it just like this at the range in a future video. And when I post that, I hope to see each of you here then. Later, guys.